So if you didn't know who Jillian Michaels was, you probably know who she is now, since she just recently went viral with these slavery comments that she made. Jillian, she was a trainer on The Biggest Loser. She was the one that had that look on her face as if she was possessed by the devil. And that wasn't just a look she kept on her face on the TV show. That's the look she always has on her face. She looks like a demon, even when she smiles. So once she leaves The Biggest Loser, she gets into politics. And we know usually when a white woman leaves a reality show and gets into politics, we usually know what type of views they're going to have. MAGA views, right? And we got a taste of those views when she went on CNN. So the topic of discussion was Donald Trump and the Smithsonian Institution. Because Donald Trump, he wants to remove some of the historical slavery details from the history books because he said it makes the country look bad. Really what he means is it makes white people look bad. It makes white people feel guilty, at least the very racist ones like Trump. So Trump, he puts up this post where he says the museums throughout Washington, but all over the country are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. I mean, because what is the opposite of woke? The opposite of woke is to be asleep, right? Who wants to be sleeping on a job? I mean, this woke term, it's like something you would hear in a Batman Gotham type of movie or cartoon. This is the exact type of term that the villains would be calling the good guys, right? And the allies of the good guys. Look at all these good guys and heroes being awake when they're all supposed to be asleep, like us. Another word for being asleep is ignorant, naive, hypnotized, gullible. So don't no smart person want to be asleep. We all want to be awake because that's called awareness. You ever heard somebody tell somebody else to wake the fuck up and smell the coffee? Well, those are the people you're supposed to be listening to. So anyway, Trump, he continues by saying the Smithsonian is out of control, where everything is discussed how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen. And I've instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities where tremendous progress has been made. The country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums. Oh, people talking about the country, all right. They really talking about your ass all across the globe. Man, I be running across people from all around the world out here in Thailand. And as soon as they see me, they'll ask me, man, what happened to America? What's going on out there? How did Trump even become president? I don't even understand it. And the majority of these are white people saying this to me. I mean, I could just be at the grocery store checking out, and then somebody would just strike up a conversation with me just because they know I'm from America by asking that question. Like, man, what is going on out there in America? You know, it's funny that Trump says that he wants to basically downplay slavery, the history of slavery in this country, but yet he's the same man that also wants to restore Confederate statues. And he's never complained about white people waving Confederate flags today. I mean, so which one is it? Does reminding people of slavery make the country look horrible or not? And just so you guys know, I want to give you some contrast. Do you know that in Germany, it's illegal to put up any statues of Hitler or any other type of Nazis? The swastika logo is completely banned from the country. You can't walk around with a swastika on your shirt like white people do walking around with Confederate flags. But even though they banned the statues and the logo, they still teach the history. They don't try to change history. Okay, so this brings us back to Jillian Michaels and her once again giving her take on this whole Smithsonian situation with Donald Trump.
He looked at some of the things that were being reviewed.
Slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay.
Like, he forgave
He's
me for
not
saying
whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No.
Okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look
at slavery,
let's talk about the fact
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were.
Do you know who was the first race to try to end slavery?
Wait a second.
Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised that you're trying to
extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that?
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is
in the
that
context of American history,
Okay.
in the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by
What I'm
saying
is
that
you
it was white
cannot-
people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth. Like, for example, every single exhibit, I have a list of every single one. Like, people migrated from Cuba because white people bad. Not because of Castro. Yes, no, it's in there. That's what I'm saying. You don't actually know what's in there. Do you know that when you walk in the
Jillian,
front door,
what exactly?
the first thing...
Okay, man, so it's just so much to debunk and unpack. But what I notice is Jillian, she does what all the MAGA people do. You know, she brings up some outrageous point about percentages of slave owners in America. Once everybody on the panel starts to respond to it, she tries to pivot to talking about other stuff. She starts talking about Cuba and transgenders and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, whoa. We got to bring it back to you talking about slavery and the percentage of slave owners. I mean, because it's almost like she tried to damn near make people forget what she just said with this deflection of bringing up other topics. And the thing is, she left herself so wide open for so many counters. And I'm talking about counters with facts, receipts that would have made her look so stupid. Because I don't feel the panel did a good enough job of exposing her with facts. Because the last thing you want to do is talk about statistics when you're trying to defend white supremacy in America. Because if you're going to bring up stats, bring up all the stats. They should have asked her what was the percentage of white people that participated in Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, not giving black people the right to vote. And this was all after slavery, Jillian. So when you hear Jillian say, oh, you know, it's always white people bad, what she's basically saying is, oh, it was only 2% of the population of white people that was bad, meaning the other 98% of the population were good white people. So if that's the case, where were the 98% when the 2% were being bad? How come the 98% didn't overthrow the 2%? Not only that, but how come she didn't have anything bad to say about the 2%? How come she didn't denounce them? Slavery went on for 250 years in America. And let Jillian tell it, the 98%, which were supposed to be the good ones, they allowed it to go on that long. Never in the history of this country have the majority of white people went out to protest against segregation, Jim Crow, slavery, equal rights. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've seen a lot of white people that were on the right side of history and protested, but it wasn't close to no 98%. It wasn't even close to 50%. If anything, it was more like 5 to 10%. You guys have to realize there are 340 million Americans living in the country, at least today. Let me give Jillian some more stats. A recent poll from June 2024 found that a slim majority of Americans, 52%, support preserving the legacy and history of the Confederacy through public memorials and statues, while 44% oppose it. She over here saying, yeah, it's always white people bad. 52% of the population, and that was last year. It's even higher now because Donald Trump is in office. That inspires more racist people to come from under that rock they were hiding under. Let me read this for you. Extremist groups proliferated in the United States in 2015. A U.S. research group said Wednesday as ideologically driven violence and incendiary political rhetoric created fertile conditions for white supremacists and other fringe actors. The Southern Poverty Law Center said the number of far-right hate groups grew to 892 in 2015 from 784. So here's the question. What happened in 2015? What was the change? Why the surge in Nazis, hate groups, and white supremacists? It was because Donald Trump had got elected in 2015. This is why it sounds so stupid when you hear these MAGA people say, oh, well, you know, the Democrats, they just as bad. They're no better. You know, they're just as racist, et cetera, et cetera. So if that is the case, how come the Nazis and the KKK are only supporting Donald Trump? This ain't Democrat versus Republican. This is Democrat versus Nazis. I mean, you could call it the lesser of two evils if you want. But the one thing we know for sure, if Trump and Kamala were both police officers, you would have a much better chance of getting shot and killed with your hands up by Donald Trump than Kamala. And for all of the black MAGA out there, if you got shot and killed by some racist police officer, there's a 99% chance that Donald Trump, he's going to be supporting the cop that killed you. even though you voted for him. This is the reason why Donald Trump, he said he wanted to give all cops immunity from committing crime. Because when he said that, he had your black ass in mind, and mine's too. Now, since Jillian got so much backlash for what she said, she did another interview where she tried to explain the whole less than 2% situation, and all she really did was dig herself a deeper hole. Because in this interview, she really contradicts everything she said from the beginning, and I'm going to explain it. Check this out.
Go on CNN, and I get the topics ahead of time. So one of them is that Trump is trying to revise history by asking the Smithsonian to revisit some of their installations.
What does that mean, like art piece?
I wasn't sure.
Okay.
So I asked the same question. And so I reached out to the comms team at the White House. I said, listen, this is going to come up. Can I ask you, what installations is the administration taking umbrage with? Can you send it to me? So they send me a document, and it's about 50 pages.
Oh my word.
Not one thing in the document, not one installation actually is about slavery. Not one.
Have you ever spoken about any of this type of subject?
The answer is yes, on several occasions.
Have you ever spoken about any of this type of subject?
I didn't even know about it. I literally didn't know about it until I was asked to kind of weigh in on it on CNN. But this one woman on the other side immediately goes to Trump is whitewashing slavery. So with unbelievable confidence, knowing what was in there, I'm like, no, he's not. And then when I said no, he's not, then Abby Phillips and Richie Torres essentially, I guess, made some sort of assumption that I was trying to defend slavery. I'm not quite sure where they got that impression. We constantly talk about white supremacy, but we look the other way with black degeneracy. It begets white hostility that then validates and begets white degeneracy. And it's this impossible cycle. So I turned around to Richie Torres and I was like, do you realize that less than 2% of Americans white Americans owned slaves?
Wow.
And the reason I say this is I'm not trying to whitewash slavery. It's because not all white people are the enemy. That throughout history, there are two sides. There were horrors and atrocities and bad guys and disgusting things that happened at the hands of whites against blacks during slavery. But there were also the white people, the abolitionists, that abolished it in their states and that died to end it.
Wow.
And you know what else, guys? We stood shoulder to shoulder in the 60s. We stood shoulder to shoulder with the George Floyd situation. Like, we have done this throughout history. We have bent the trajectory of history in the right direction. But if you cannot turn around and say that without being called a racist, like, I don't know where we are. All I can tell you is it's now I'm like, all right, well, now we're here. I'm gonna, lean into the conversation where appropriate. But I also think there are two narratives going on. And white people, we really don't understand. We don't. And then black people are like, I don't have to explain this to you. And it's like, maybe you do. Maybe you do. And white people, even though you may not have been responsible for it and you don't want to get another lecture, I think you need to sit there and listen long enough to understand why the pain is still there. And it's like, we gotta fucking talk about it, guys.
A lot to unpack. Jillian is trying to have it both ways. She says, we stood shoulder to shoulder with you guys. We stood shoulder to shoulder with you guys in the 60s. We stood shoulder to shoulder with you guys when it came to George Floyd. We abolished slavery. First of all, like I said, slavery went on in America for 250 years. How do you just jump from the beginning of slavery 250 years later when you claim that it was only less than 2% of the population that were the bad ones? And what do you mean when you say we?
Well, I can only hope Jillian Michaels is a better trainer than she is an explainer. She was talking about the fact that there were good people on both sides. There were, people who were for slavery and people who fought against it. But you weren't one of them. She talked about marching in the civil rights. You didn't do that. She talked about fighting a war. You didn't do that.
And she also said we stood shoulder to shoulder in the George Floyd situation. She didn't do that either. She never did any interview or put up any post supporting justice for George Floyd. And the George Floyd situation was global. You had people all across the world that were protesting to get George Floyd justice. And now she wants to take credit for something she never supported. See, Jillian, she's trying to have it both ways. And this is what I mean when I say she is completely contradicting herself. Because, see, she doesn't want white people to take credit for slavery, but she wants white people to take credit for standing shoulder to shoulder in the George Floyd situation, shoulder to shoulder when it came to civil rights and abolishing slavery. She's trying to have it both ways. When it comes to slavery, oh, that was less than 2%. But what about the percentage of white people that supported civil rights in the 60s? The vast majority of America was completely against integration. There were nearly 200 million Americans in 1965. What percentage of them do you think went out and protested in favor of black people's civil rights? It was less than 5%, and that's a generous number. Remember, like I told you, more than half of America still supports Confederate flags and statues in the country. So that gives you an idea of how many people once again supported integration as opposed to segregation back in the 60s. And this is why it was so stupid for Jillian to bring up stats. So once again, Jillian's math is not adding up. Where is this 98% of white people that stood shoulder to shoulder with black people? So then Jillian, she says in this interview, you know, us white people, we don't understand. And then black people say, oh, well, you should already know about it, so I shouldn't have to explain it to you. And then Jillian says, well, maybe you do. If Jillian is admitting that she doesn't understand this topic, why is she on CNN talking about it? And then she says the black people are supposed to explain it to us, but the black people were trying to explain it to you on CNN. And you were cutting them off, and you had your own narrative. You didn't care what they were saying. All you wanted to do is put out your MAGA talking points. But now, because she's catching backlash, she's catching a lot of heat, now she wants to play dumb and say, oh, you know, us white people, we don't understand, and you guys have to explain it to us. And at the same time, she's double talking with these backhand apologies, because then she starts to say, well, you know, we've done so much for you guys. We've done so much. We stood shoulder to shoulder with you guys. We abolished slavery. We stood with you guys in the 60s for civil rights. So you guys should be grateful, because that is basically what she's really saying. Because you got to think about this. If she's willing to say all of this in front of a microphone and a camera, just imagine the private conversations she has with her friends. I mean, she talks about this less than 2%. And once again, that was supposed to be the bad ones, right? While the other ones were good. But I would really like Jill to explain why there are so many young white kids in school right now that are bragging about slavery. So when Jillian once again talk about, you know, it's just white people bad.
It's like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad.
So let's just look at all of these white kids today that constantly mock slavery in school, putting on fake slave auctions. Look at all these stories on the screen. This is not a rare occurrence. This is an epidemic.
I literally just woke up, y'all. Anyway, so boom, I went to biology, and I usually sit in the back, but I decided to sit in the front today to be a good student. So I sit in the front. As soon as I sit down, all of her friends are looking at me like, why your black ass sitting in the front? So I'm literally smiling at them like, hello, good morning. Like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. So I sit down, mind my business. I got my AirPods in and everything. Like, I literally don't talk to nobody. I mind my business. So the girl come and she's standing on my back, like as if she want me to get up out this seat and let her sit down with her friends. So I'm looking around. Then she starts putting her stuff damn near on top of my shit, talking about some, just scooch in. So I'm like, whatever, bro. I scoot over and let her sit down. We get to taking notes in class. She opened up her MacBook. I'm literally minding my business, per usual. She started getting message. I literally, something in my body said, look down. I look down. This is the name of her group chat. So I'm looking at me and I'm looking at her. Something ain't right. So I got up, boom, went straight to the bathroom to call my dad, because I'm like, no, I know me. I'm not about to get over. I'm not going to give her a big reaction that she wanted. Y'all all in the comments talk about some, oh, I would have did this. That's y'all. I'm not losing a degree and putting my hands on somebody that I know is going to call the police on me. Like, that's just dumb. Like, come on. But I just got so instantly irritated because I literally have been dealing with going to school with racist people forever. High school, my first college, and here. And I clocked every single person. I'm clocking them every single time. You're not going to play that with me. As soon as I'm uncomfortable, you're going to be uncomfortable. So, yeah. So I went back in there and I tapped her on the shoulder, asked for her name so I could go report her. And then I left again. I waited outside that classroom door from 9:30 in the morning to 10:40. I stood there and waited outside that door. Went back into class. That's when I recorded the video and kind of went off on her a little bit. And then I went back in there to ask the professor for her last name so I could go report her. And he told me he couldn't give it to me for privacy issues and that why can't I just sit somewhere else? Then he saw I wasn't playing. So he helped me go report her to the Department of Biology. But yeah, y'all. So she gonna say, you don't know me. Why do I have to know you to look at you dead in your face and see that you're Caucasian and you talking about this and monkeys? Like, is you cool? So yeah, y'all, I've been emailing the dean. I emailed the Department of Biology. I've been emailing everybody. If they don't get back to me, then I'm not even gonna tell y'all what I'm gonna do, but just know I'm not letting it go because they keep getting away with everything, and I'm tired of that. Like, I literally have been going through this since high school, and I'm every single time I'm gonna get it and get it and get it. I'm not playing with y'all. Like,
After Kaylee raised awareness about the situation on TikTok, the video went viral, and people quickly found Kaylee's information, including her parents' social media accounts. Many began contacting the school repeatedly to support Kaylee. The response was so overwhelming that Kaylee had to ask people to stop reaching out to the school, assuring them that action is now being taken. They responded in a condescending and nonchalant manner. One of the students was even seen smirking.
all of y'all. Yeah, don't. You know better not to say nothing. What? All of y'all. Anybody else? Anybody else? Y'all think we time pickers and monkeys too? You think that's cool? You think that's cool? You think that's cool? What? What? No, she texting in the group chat talking about cotton pickers and monkeys. I don't give a who you is, Casey. What? Why the you talking about cotton pickers and monkeys? It's your wife. What you talking about? Let me say something real quick because somebody just informed me that homegirl is trying to say that I'm making this up and that she is being framed. Y'all, I only have this class Tuesdays and Thursdays. This is what, my third week of school. I have never spoke one word in this class. I sat at the back every single class. Nobody knows me in the class. Nobody talks. So why would I choose yesterday's class to be the day? Today's gonna be the day I'm gonna make a scene so people know me in this class just cause. And I'm gonna point her out and say that she's in a racist group chat just because. I never knew this girl before that. And I'm not that type of person. I'm not about to just call somebody out for nothing. But exactly. And hold on, let me show this. Okay, I'm covering the girl's what's that called? Her profile picture. But y'all see right there, this girl, okay, let me read it first. Literally owned up to the group chat name, so I'm confused as to what the right story is. So that was a girl who attends this school, and she DM'd me and said, yeah, I used to be friends with the girl, and they still share mutual friends. And the mutual friend called her to tell her, take your comment down because the girl is lying. What reason would I have to lie, Bookie? And homegirl just said right there, y'all admitted to the group name. I'm screenshotting everything. Don't play with me. Y'all not about to try to flip this on me. I'm literally not about to play with y'all, like literally at all. Everybody in the comments, first of all, I don't know. I never knew the girl's Instagram. I just found out her name yesterday when I tapped her on the shoulder and asked her what her name was. So people finding her TikTok and Instagram and number don't have nothing to do with me. I didn't leak none of that. I didn't drop none of that. And I commented in all my videos to don't say nothing to that girl. Don't harass her or nothing. I do not condone bullying, harassment. I don't play like that. I don't play the games. I'm not a bully or nothing like that. But you are about to be held accountable. And now that you're trying to say that I'm lying, now I'm on that for real. I'm not playing with y'all. So y'all, who do I need to go to? What's the highest of the highest people in college that I can go to? Because I'm not playing. Y'all not about to play with me and try to make it seem like I just chose to pick up a storyline just because. Why would I make a storyline for my biology class? I don't even know what's going on in there. I don't have no notes, nothing. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in class, and I'm being distracted by a big old monkey on the screen next to me. Like what? Okay, so yeah, I just had to put that out there. and say that, because what y'all not gonna do is gonna make it seem like I'm lying. For what? What reason would I have to lie? And why would I lie on you? Who are you for me to be lying about? But yeah, like I said, y'all, don't go harass that girl. That's not doing nothing but being exactly like her. I don't play about bullying and none of that. So, but you're not gonna say I'm lying. So yeah.
Kaylee heard that Casey is telling people at school that she's lying about her. Kaylee pointed out that she's been attending class for 3 weeks now, so why would she suddenly make up a story about someone she doesn't even know? However, another student who also attends the class and was once friends with Casey confirmed that Casey did, in fact, admit to starting a racist group chat.
All right, y'all. So I just had all my meetings and stuff, and before I even tell y'all what happened, whatever, y'all gotta stop. Y'all can stop contacting my school now. They keep, y'all. I really appreciate it, but they can't even get to working on the case, y'all, because they get an email and call back to back to back. So thank y'all, but y'all can stop contacting the school and stuff like that. All right, boom. So they really just worried about my safety right now around campus, and I'm not too much really. I was yesterday and the day before, but now I'm really getting that scared. And they asked me if I wanted one of the campus police or the police to walk with me. I don't want the police to do nothing for me, because people coming to me about their experiences, I'm cool. I said I don't need the police. Anyways, y'all, so they just been worried about my safety, and I'm cool, but I'm getting up out that class. I've been trying to get out this class before the situation even happened. Like, that professor, I really don't him. So I've been trying to get out that class. So I got me a different class. Y'all, they put me in a different room because I'm pretty sure Shawty stay in the same dorm as me, so I gotta go. But that means I gotta give up my palace, y'all. My studio apartment palace. That's cool though, whatever. So I'm literally about to pack all this stuff up so I can go move into the other room like today, y'all. But they was probably gonna give me a new roommate anyways if I stayed here. And I don't like this dorm. It look got mold in it, and it's cold in here. But anyways, okay. So then I had a meeting with the dean, and they told me that she basically asked me what I want out of this, and I said she got to go. But if y'all can't do that, since I understand that I didn't take a picture of the group chat or whatever, so it's really my word against her. So if y'all not gonna get this girl up out of here, I want a public apology, and I want her to tell everybody what the group chat name was, the purpose of the group chat, because like, what do y'all even talk about in there? Like, what's the sole purpose of this shit? Like, what the fuck? So yeah, and then I want her to say that I wasn't lying. So she wanted to come and say that I was lying on her, like I'm finna frame her, like she's somebody to frame. Yeah. So now we just playing the waiting game, y'all. We're literally just playing the waiting game. So, and I said I wanted a meeting with her. I want to talk to her face to face, honestly. So we playing the waiting game, y'all, to see what the school gonna do. But y'all gotta stop calling the school. Y'all gotta stop calling the school and emailing this. They see it, y'all. They trying to work on it, but they can't because their phone is being blown up. But yeah, so honestly, playing the waiting game. We finna see what happened. If she don't get any type of reparations, I want a public apology, boo. And that's that on that. So, and the professor, he can suck my dick. But yeah, I'm not gonna keep, like, my page is not gonna keep being about this though. So this really might be my final update about this, because I really don't know what's gonna happen. I have to sit and wait. And they even told me that I probably might not know the outcome that do happen. So I'm really just trying to see if I can get a meeting with Shawty to see what happened. So this is my final update, y'all. The school is handling it. The school is taking it serious and handling it. So y'all don't got to go text the school or nobody no more. It's getting taken care of. I really appreciate everybody for reaching out to them, though, and doing what y'all did, because, yeah, it is that serious. And, yeah. So, but, yeah, y'all, it's getting handled and everything. So, last update. I'm going back to my normal content. Thank y'all.
Now, in this story with Katie and Casey Taylor, this was just one of many. But it's important to note that these are college students. That means they're going to have a profession where they're going to be serving the public, working as doctors, teachers, judges, lawyers, managers, etc. These are the people that we have to trust. Jillian, she's sitting over here talking about, oh, we white people, we don't know. We don't know. You black people have to explain this to us. Y'all know exactly what's going on. These kids are embracing it. So if it's only less than 2%, how do you explain the fact that kids in school, white kids in school, are embracing the role of being a slave master? Or at least trying to act as if they're superior, because they're only doing it between each other. They're not doing it with other black people, because when a black person finds out they're doing it, that's when they get scared.
So anyone surfing social media this week has surely seen this clip of Jillian Michaels saying this about slavery.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
And while she didn't name a specific year in her claim on CNN, she did tweet this out later saying, "I'm denigrating all of humanity by pointing out that 98% of American white people in 1860 didn't perpetrate slavery." But let's take a look at this claim. Because yes, as the data shows, in 1860, there were 393,975 slave owners in the United States out of a total population of 31,183,582, or just 1.26% of the population. But let's take a closer look at that, because by taking a look at this map from 1860 of the percent of households that owned slaves at the time, we can see that slavery was no longer practiced in the North and was only practiced down here in the South. And so yeah, if we eliminate those 18 free states and only concentrate on the remaining 15 slave states, you can see we get that same amount of slave owners that now have a population of just 12 million. That's almost 19 million off of the original number, which gets us to 3.22% of the population owning slaves. And so yeah, if we eliminate those 18 free states and only concentrate on the remaining 15 slave states, you can see we get that same amount of slave owners that now have a population of just 12 million. That's almost 19 million off of the original number, which gets us to 3.22% of the population owning slaves. But here's another problem. If we just look at the US slave states in 1860, we can see that in the slave column here, we have almost 4 million slaves. And because they can't own themselves, we gotta minus them out too. And so if we remove them, we get 8.2 million with the same amount of slave owners, and now that number jumps up to 4.75% of the free population of these 15 states. But if we focus on just those 11 states that decided to secede from the United States in order to protect slavery, that percentage gets even bigger. So if we add up just the Confederate States, we get 316,632 slave owners and 5,582,222 people, meaning that now 5.67% of the free population owns slaves. But again, this 5.67 number only deals with the patriarch of a family who actually owns those slaves, not the wife and children who stood to inherit them when he died. So if we take a look at that number, we can see that 30.8% of the free families in the Confederacy owned slaves, and that number was as high as 49% in a state like Mississippi. And that's why, Jillian, it's important to teach slavery to our school children, to know how it started, how it progressed, and what states decided to fight a war to keep it. I mean, there is zero evidence to say if these 11 states had beaten the North in the Civil War that they would have ever ended slavery. It was an economic advantage that they didn't want to let go of. And that's why it's no secret that when you take a look at the map of people that owned slaves in 1860 and compare it to the map of the states that decided to fight a war over slavery, and then compare it to a map of the violence that was brought against black people in the 10 years after Jim Crow laws were adopted in the South, and then compare it to a map of the segregation that existed all the way into the 1950s and the 1960s, it's clear that the same culture that was committed to slave ownership decades after other American states gave it up maintained that culture in those same states more than a century later. This is a picture from 1965 of a woman and her daughters. And that's why it's important to teach all history, Jillian, not just cherry pick certain percentages when they work for your argument. We need to teach kids everything and let them figure it out for themselves.
Watching CNN, and I saw where Jillian Michaels was on there in a debate that she seemed to have started, and they were talking about changes to the Smithsonian and how art and culture shifts between who has the power to dictate how the exhibits are written, who the exhibits are of, and everything. And Jillian Michaels was like, it's so unfair that slavery in this country only gets blamed on one race. Look, as outrageous as that is genuinely funny. Like, look, Look, I'm not gonna tell anybody how to feel, but if you heard the words I said, that Jillian said, and you immediately got angry, I would ask you to take a step back. I'm not gonna tell you how to feel. You can be angry if you want to be angry, because it is a very short-sighted, ignorant thing to say, but that's precisely why it's so funny. It is absolutely hilarious. And it makes sense to me that someone like Jillian Michaels would say something like this. She is from a reality TV show. She's known for the show The Biggest Loser. Yeah, that's who she is, that coach from The Biggest Loser. You know, the nice one. The Biggest Loser was a show, I don't think it's still on the air anymore, so if you're not familiar with the show, it was a show where they would bring on people who were overweight, struggling with image and everything, and they would help them lose weight by making them do slavery.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, the fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodekey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.